Hey everyone, DICE has just released a blog post or a community update going over what they learned from the open beta, and I thought it'd be a good idea to go over it together and share my thoughts on it. Like and subscribe for more. So they just say thank you to everyone who joined the open beta, and that's great. Of course, I played it along with many of you. Initial learning and game changes. As we approach the launch of Battlefield 6 on October 10, we like to take a moment to look back at the recent open beta and share our key learnings and in-game changes we're making based on your feedback and in-game data. That's perfect. A lot of people are thinking that the beta is kind of for marketing, which it kind of is, but it's also, for them to change the game based on community feedback, which it seems like they're doing. So let's see what they're doing. Weapons. We're making targeted adjustments to deliver a more consistent and rewarding gunplay experience. This includes a general pass on recoil and tapfire characteristics across all weapons, further emphasizing their unique feel and improving range differentiation. We've also made changes to encourage more controlled tap firing and burst firing, rewarding precision and weapon mastery. This specific sentence is very important because I'm not sure how many of you used it. I kind of did just because I'm an old Battlefield fan, but tap firing and burst firing at super long distances was super useful. Like, you were dead accurate if you didn't just hold the left click button. Additionally, the M87A1 shotgun now requires more pellets to secure a kill. That's, of course, absolutely amazing. I was actually hoping we would get a nerf like this in the week 2 of the open beta, but, it's all right. We're investigating time to kill and time to death experiences. We will share that update if we get definitive changes made in these areas. Cool. Movement. Movement mechanics have been adjusted to create a more balanced and traditional Battlefield experience. Momentum, especially horizontal speed, carried from a slide into a jump, has been reduced. So this is another thing that a lot of the better players were, I don't want to say abusing, but they were using it a lot, where sliding and then jumping around corners made you really fast, and you could really catch people off guard and surprise them if you kind of just did it at a closest range and people couldn't really track you super well. So this is probably a good change. There's now a greater penalty for consecutive jumps, which is great. No spam jumping, which lowers jump height when jumps are spammed. Firing while jumping or sliding will result in inaccuracy. This is actually already the case. Firing while jumping or sliding will result in inaccuracy. Both of these already give you pretty good inaccuracy, but I guess they're making it even worse, which I'm okay with because I don't want to see people jumping around while shooting. I think sliding is a little interesting, and I think sliding should be somewhat accurate, obviously not dead accurate, but we'll see. These changes are designed to make sliding and jumping more situational, so they are no longer the ideal option. Exactly right. They should never be the ideal options. They should just be an option in case you want to, for whatever reason, slide and catch the enemy off guard. Will contribute to a gameplay pace that rewards skillful movement without becoming too fast or unpredictable. Perfect. Parachute physics have also been retuned. Yeah, if you didn't know, there's not a lot of reason to use the parachute in the open beta maps we had, but the parachute was very fast. With reduced energy, yeah. So you were actually pretty slow for like about half a second, and then you zoomed across the map. It was kind of crazy. But so that'll be nice that they're fixing that a bit. So talking about the maps now, we observed some players finding a way to reach rooftops. There's not really much to talk about. We knew they were going to fix this. And for these the upcoming assault ladder is also not designed to not access the areas. Perfect. We're actively working on adjustments to prevent unintended access. Yeah, this is something I mentioned in another one of my videos, but the assault ladder is going to be quite problematic even without the assault ladder. People found crazy spots to get to in multiple maps. So can you imagine with the assault ladder, the kind of spots people are going to find? So we'll see. We also heard strong feedback from players excited by the larger scale maps that Battlefield has to offer. While the open beta features follow more fast-paced maps, larger scale maps are already part of our launch package, delivering action-packed gameplay and memorable, unique moments for every player. As part of it, upcoming Battlefield Labs testing will be testing 2 new multiplayer maps. That's great to see. Okay, well, I am in Labs, so I guess I'll get to play those, Mirak Valley and the remake of the fan favorite, Operation Firestorm. That's great. These 2 maps include full complement of vehicles like Liberation Peak, along with a more vast combat space. So yeah, that's definitely good. I did think people were a little bit overly, kind of building up this whole the maps are too small issue, because it's very obvious that they were trying to appeal to, the COD or whatever, trying to appeal to the normal like FPS player base, where, the normal FPS player base is used to like fast pace, like CQB, arena shooter types like Call of Duty or Halo or whatever the hell you want to say. And it's clear that they were trying to kind of appeal to those kind of gamers, being like, hey, look, come over to our game. We have gameplay like this. The Battlefield players are already going to play Battlefield 6, most likely, right? They don't, I mean, of course they care about Battlefield 6 players, but they're not going to say like, hey, look at these big maps we have. Battlefield 6 players already know about the big maps, and that's why they're there. But they also want to show that, hey, look, we can do this other stuff too, like close quarters, intense, like high action combat, which is why we had the small maps in the beta. Modes. When it comes to Rush, the conversation we observed wasn't just about the count, but also how maps play, tactical experience they offer. Rush is a mode with deep roots, originally known as Gold Rush in Bad Company. Yes, I do remember that, where matches typically range from 12v12 to 16v16. If you remember, there's a golden era of Rush, and it continues to inspire our approach today. So, yep, they've saying this thing. They've even experimented with 128 player versions in 2042, obviously. These matches created fast-paced moments. They also led to issues. Yeah, Rush is especially sensitive to higher player counts due to its tactical and strategic requirements. When a player tries to arm the MCOM while more than 20 opponents are defending, the intended gameplay becomes less tangible. Based on the feedback, will lowering the default player count? Yeah. Okay, so it seems like for those who enjoy large-scale Rush, Portal will allow you to experiment with different player counts at launch. In contrast, okay, so this is actually what I was just about to mention. In contrast, Breakthrough is designed to accommodate higher player counts of up to 64 players, and that's where the mode really shines. So using win-loss data from the open beta, we're continuing to make map-by-map balance adjustments towards our goal. Right, okay. So Rush had a couple of issues, I would say, but I don't think the player count was necessarily the biggest issue. I know people saw 12v12 and they were like, that's not enough players, but I think the bigger issue is that the locations of the MCOMs were quite poor in Rush, and no one really talked about that as much. Some of the, especially on Liberation Peak, and I believe the new map, Empire State, the MCOM locations were terrible on both sides. Some were just like really easy to defend once you place it, and some were really hard to get to and were basically next to the attacker spawn, which made no sense. I think exactly what they say here, Breakthrough is literally Rush, except you don't have to plant an MCOM. You just have to capture a flag. So it makes a lot more sense to be able to exist in an area and capture the flag in like a larger scale Battlefield experience where, 20 people might be looking at you, but hey, you're on the flag, you're behind cover, rather than a tiny little MCOM that you have to go up to and plant while 20 people are looking at you. That's way too many people looking at you while you have to sit there and plant. You can't even shoot back. You have to, arm the MCOM. So I do think they're kind of right here, and they need to work on other stuff regarding Rush, such as, like they say, map by map balance adjustments, including like where the MCOM is located or what kind of areas that either the attackers or the defenders have to work with. So I think they're doing the right thing here. Our approach toward player counts, interesting. I'm surprised they mentioned this. There's some confusion around the number of players in different games, so we wanted to take a moment to clarify our current situation for how these get determined. Rather than locking maps, oh, I see. I was thinking they were talking about how many people played the beta. Rather than locking maps and most to a fixed player count, our philosophy is to adapt to best fit the intended experience. Sorry about that. This may vary by map, but evolve over time with player feedback, okay? For example, at launch, some Breakthrough layouts will support 48 players, while other will have 64. It's one of the many factors we adjust to create the right balance and feel for each scenario. In Breakthrough, higher player counts work well on open dynamic maps, while smaller player groups offer a more focused experience on denser maps. Portal gives the flexibility to try different settings and find out where it works on their group and playstyle. Finding the right balance is an ongoing process, and as everyone gets familiar with map sizes, lanes, and combat spaces, for now we found that 8v8 provides a solid starting point for small-scale, fast-paced modes like Team Deathmatch, Squad Deathmatch, Domination, and King of the Hill. Right. So, again, they kind of mentioned basically the same thing as they did with Rush, is like, hey, this is what we found that works for our game, and if you guys want a different experience, you're totally allowed to do that. That's basically the whole point of Portal. You can make your own little map areas, map sizes, player counts, like that's what Portal is for, and so I'm totally okay with them just, sticking to one thing and being like, hey, if you guys want to try something else, or if you want your own spin on it, then go ahead. Like, we have given you the tools to do that, and I think that's perfect. Playlist options. A limited variety of playlist options are created for the open beta to both showcase and test the flexibility of the matchmaking system. For more details on our player adjustments, see our post about the open beta week 2 playlist options. Playing with both open and closed weapons will continue to be the option in Battlefield 6, and we're looking for ways to keep them easily accessible. So, right, this part is something we have to talk about. The open and closed op weapons is kind of a weird situation. Now, I've seen people, both sides, people have said, oh, closed weapons just makes way more sense, and I feel like my team is better and there's more teamwork in closed weapons. And then I've also heard people say there's literally no difference between open and closed weapons. And personally, I'm kind of in that boat. I played both not equally. I would say I played open weapons more. But every time I played closed weapons, which was quite a lot, by the way, it just didn't feel that much different. In open weapons, 90% of the time, maybe more than 90% of the time, a recon had a sniper rifle. A support generally had an LMG, if not a carbine, because the M4A1 was really good. They weren't really rocking assault rifles. Assaults generally had assault rifles. And maybe that's just people's kind of bias towards, from previous games, or knowing, hey, this guy's a sniper, recon, I should use a sniper. That's what I did, even in open weapons, right? I was never running around with an assault rifle when I was playing recon. I used a DMR or a sniper rifle. So, like I said, either that's just kind of like a mental thing and they just want to use the appropriate weapon, or it's because of the signature weapon system where I get benefits for using an assault rifle on assault or an LMG on support. So why the hell would I use something else? So I think the open weapon system is totally fine, and they should just kind of stick to their guts and kind of just leave it, make it open, say, hey, this is what we're going with. And you can have the closed weapon systems in Portal, and that's what we just talked about with the different modes in Rush, so that's what Portal is for. And yes, at the end of the day, closed weapons is more classic Battlefield, and a lot of people will want that. And the only reason I think they maybe do want to do closed weapons is just appease the masses. If most people want that, there's no really loss for having it. Obviously, there's a monetary loss from their perspective, because if you have open weapons, then people can use their skins on any class. And of course, that leads to them selling more skins. So I understand monetarily why they want open weapons. But I think just having both options will lead to a dilution of the player base, because, there's lots of players, so it doesn't really matter. But players maybe later on down the line, a year later into release, and the player base isn't as high, your player base will be split between open and closed weapons, and maybe that's going to cause issues. I'm not sure. But at least for release, I don't think it really matters. I'm fine with it either way. We recognize that some players experience difficulty finding games to complete the challenge of capturing sectors in Breakthrough or Rush. It wasn't ideal. We're actively using your feedback and in-game data to review and improve the matchmaking system with the goal of providing a smoother experience in the future. Okay. I don't think finding games to complete... Yeah, I don't think I ever had problems finding games to complete the challenge of capturing sectors. You just queued for it, and then you got the games. Okay, interesting. I didn't realize this was an issue, but all right. Reflecting on open beta and next steps. With the insights gathered during the open beta play sessions, we'll be introducing in-game adjustments in the upcoming Battlefield Labs event. Stay tuned for progress updates and future opportunities to get involved. So that's going to be great. The signups for Battlefield Labs are closed, so I'm not sure. It seems like they're kind of making it seem like they're going to open them back up. I'm not sure how many people will get to play in them. But it's good to see that, of course, they're going to test those 2 new maps along with, all these other in-game adjustments like the shotgun and whatever else they've made. And of course, already, actually, if you don't know, Battlefield Labs has way more gadgets and alternate options for training in Battlefield Labs compared to what we had in the open beta. So we've already tested a lot of that stuff, which is, even more stuff to test now. So that's great. Anyways, it seems like they have some stats, most players in BF history. That's great to see. Well, 420 million matches played, tons of gameplay. Ooh, this is interesting. Assault was played the most. Interesting, Now, obviously, Assault was good. I'm not saying it wasn't, but Support was by far the most OP and most useful and just overall great class. But I think a lot of people probably have that Assault mindset, and so they were just sticking with Assault. It's also the first class, so I'm sure that has something to do with it. I bet if Support was the first class, it would have higher numbers. But it's interesting to see, because my most played was Support in both weekends, I believe. And just being able to revive your teammates, my squad mates, and just keep myself healed up after fights was just super useful. And of course, with open weapons, I could use my any gun. I was mainly using LMGs or the M4A1. I wasn't using, SMGs or assault rifles. But like, there's kind of no reason to play anything but assault, but support. I did play a lot of assault in those smaller game modes, such as King of the Hill or Rush, maybe. So it was very, very useful there, especially with how OP the shotgun was. And I'm sure that has a little bit to do with it, being able to take the shotgun, which was like by far the best weapon in the beta, and the assault was able to take an actual gun plus the shotgun, meant that I could see why people played assault a lot. I'm curious what it will be, once the shotgun gets nerfed. It seems like Recon was the least played, which makes sense. I mainly only played Recon on Breakthrough, with the respawn beacon being very useful there. And we have total kills, tanks destroyed by engineers, helicopters destroyed, jets destroyed. Okay, cool. Final destruction received. I believe there was actually a goal of some sort of destruction, and if we hit that a certain amount, everyone was going to get a tank skin, I believe, or something like that. I'm not sure what happened with that, but maybe we'll be getting that or not. So we'll see. Let's see what people are saying a little bit. I want to make sure I didn't miss anything. I don't think so. Yeah, we're good. Chuck and Tweak is a welcome change, and movement as well. I can say for myself, I don't want to see dopamine-fueled players zooming on my screen. Yeah, this is Battlefield. No one really wants to see that. I'm sure there's some that do. All this sounds great, but please fix the UI. Yeah, they didn't mention that. That's a good point. Obviously, I haven't mentioned everything that's wrong with the game or anything, but that is one of the things that I feel like I saw mentioned a lot, and they said nothing about it, which is crazy because I think UI is one of those. I'm not saying it's easy, but they can definitely fix that. It's not the hardest thing. It's not like something that's fundamentally wrong with the game. So hopefully they do work on it. Shrek and Karkin, please. Yeah, this is the wrong kind of post to ask for this, but this is probably the single map that I'm most excited for if, potentially getting. Bendar Desert was good. Karkin 27, 24/7, 10,000 tickets. Yeah. It takes me back to Battlefield 2 days. All the changes have been listed. Congratulations on a fantastic open beta. However, for Rush, I must say player count is not the issue. Yeah, so that's exactly what I was saying. The sector design, and where the MCOM is, resulting in extremely small player spaces where the battle happens next to the MCOM. Exactly, that's what I was saying. Just like spawning, walking for about 10 seconds, if that, and being next to your MCOM is like crazy when you're defending. Like, the opponents have to walk a lot further in some cases. You have to walk not at all. That needs a little bit of a pass over. Breaking down enemy defense, as a defender, you have the option to hold a higher line, even flank. This is what made Rush right. This is what I've been missing since. Take a look at state. Let's see what this guy's talking about. Yeah. Okay. So as you can see, like this B point, I believe, and it is like very close. And this is not even the best example of it. I believe Empire State would have an even better. Actually, this is Empire State. No. Oh yeah, he's comparing. Yeah, this is Empire State, right? No, see, the Siege of Cairo. Sorry about that. Yeah, so Siege of Cairo, I believe it was okay in Siege of Cairo, but in Empire State, you would like spawn at this headquarters here, and then the HEMCOM would be like right around there, and it made no sense. It's like, oh, what the hell? Versus, yeah, something like this from Bad Company, you can see that the points are much farther away, and that I just think they'll work on it, I'm sure. Like I said, it's an open beta, whatever. Persistent servers and server browser, thank you. Yep. There's not much to say here. I don't think we'll be getting it, but maybe we will. Who knows? Also, you're going to mention how you deal with data on open class playlists. One closed classes mode versus 4+ open classes. Well, of course, favor the bad one. Yes, they did. It literally says right there. Yeah, I don't know. Good Lord, can we give this a rest already? I'm kind of on board with this guy. It's not really a topic. Like, it's just leave it alone. Good tweaks to weapons and movement. I'm a bit worried you have no updates on vehicles yet. They have already told us they're working on helicopter physics and possibly even ground vehicle physics, and that they'll be improving them. But this is probably, it's not like this is all they're going to do before the launch of the game, right? This is just what they're saying they're working on already, and maybe what we'll see like in Battlefield Labs soon. And I'm sure there'll be more to come to that, as we're still 2 months away from the launch of the game. Assault needs to lose the second primary if they're getting the beacon as well as it looks like. Everyone's saying recon spotting was OP. but least played by a good margin. Well, so this statement is not really correct. Something can be OP despite being not played as much. For example, like, you know, if you give Recon a shotgun, right? They do have a shotgun, but if you gave Recon a secondary shotgun, I bet they would still be the least played class, but that doesn't mean them having a shotgun wouldn't be OP. It definitely would be. So just because, you know, like the Recon spotting was a bit of an issue, but that has nothing to do with why they were the least played class. Like, that still needs a nerf. And spotting overall, this is another thing they didn't mention. Just being able to like look around through smoke and debris and seeing a giant like red dot above the enemy's head is like that needs work for sure, and it needs to be nerfed because it's really easy to find people right now. Please bring back a server browser. Matchmaking is incredibly annoying. New mode in the same map 4 times in a row. Yeah, man, you know, I agree. Of course, I want a server browser, but we'll see if we get one. This proper server browser. Good info here. Yep, UI HUD and spotting. Yes, I like 100%. This is what I want to see. Like more than almost any of the stuff they listed is the UI and HUD issues. That because granted, like they don't affect gameplay, but it's just something that's nice. And then spotting. I would say, okay, fine. The UI and HUD issues, I don't want to see more than any of this stuff. Obviously, that stuff is more important, but I do want to see it. But spotting is genuinely, I think, more important than anything they've worked on here, besides maybe movement. So definitely want to see that. The surprising data point is 19%. Sniping was useless on every map. Yeah, that's true too. Most people, including myself, picked Recon and equipped the M4A1 and played aggressively. That's the only way. Yeah. Exactly. And again, this is not a comment on the open or closed weapons class, because the M4A1 you can use even in closed weapons. So it was our pleasure. Breakthrough player count will be dependent on the map. Yeah, I think that's fine. Really good changes, quality of life things. Got my tier collector ready already. full of salty COD kids after the sliding and hopping nerfs. I didn't see hopping that much, so I'm surprised they're like kind of really calling out hopping as saying like, hey, we're gonna nerf this, but you know, I'm fine with it. 60 was a very enjoyable change of pace, and I think many classic BFNs would appreciate. Interesting. Yeah, like this guy said, Portal. If you want to do Conquest, there you go. You got Portal. Can you give us the ability to see our stats for beta? Yeah, this is weird. There is a second week open beta stats, but I haven't been able to tell if it's official or not, so I haven't messed with it, but maybe I'll check after. Server browser, yeah, I mean, this most of these other comments are going to be the same. This was only posted 54 minutes ago, so I'm sure there'll be more comments later on. But I think I'll just leave it there. What do you guys think about this blog post or community update? I'm most excited about these movement changes they're making, but obviously they've made some other important changes too. So let me know what you guys think in the comments down below, and thanks for watching.